Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the Gridiron Review. Alongside Bill Wagner, I'm Pete Medhurst. What a big weekend. Playoffs underway. And, of course, for our youth football, it was championship weekend. And, Bill, you had a chance to go out with our cameras on Saturday to Chesapeake High, which has been a very gracious host for our championship weekend now for the past couple of years. And as we told people going into this thing, the 80-pound game was going to be the big one of the weekend, and it lived up to all the billing as Brooklyn Park beat Old Mill in overtime by a score of 6-0. I know one of the 1,100 teams from South River in the B Division won. They did not give up a point all year, so that means you can play American Division next year. I'm just telling you. But also a great chance to get out and talk about the department and all of the stuff that goes into it. You had a chance to speak with Rick Anthony and with Jason Clarke, the president of the AAYFA now. But you know what an atmosphere that always turns out to be on that on the championship Saturday.
Yeah, it's amazing. I pulled up to Chesapeake High around 11:15 on Saturday, and the place was packed already.
Yeah.
And the first game was underway. That was a 70-pound final, and that was a good game.
Pasadena won. Chargers
That's right.
pick
The Chargers,
up the trophy.
a very close game. Markel Long was the coach. He was very happy. His son was one of the star players, also Markel Long Jr. And then I watched a good portion of that 80-pound game. That was a rock'em sock'em affair. For the majority of the game, the ball was in between the two 40s.
Yeah.
They had a short kickoff, and I think that the Old Mill got possession first. They went nowhere, and neither team could advance past the 40. The quarterback for Brooklyn Park, that's Jaron Avery. Remember Jaron Avery that played at North County High? And he had an interesting story. He went on to play college football at a pretty high level. His son is the quarterback, and he towered above everyone. He was a big boy, and Darren Batman Johnson is the head coach of Brooklyn Park. But a very hard-fought win. And, yes, it was very good to speak to Rick Anthony and to Jason Clarke, because the partnership between Anne Arundel County Recreation and Parks and the AAYFA is really unique and special. I mean, Anne Arundel County Recreation and Parks provides the organizational structure, but AAYFA in many ways governs itself. And they work together and they talk about things. You know, the big thing about this, 3 divisions did not have a championship in the American. And that's something the AAYFA governs itself, and they had a meeting, and that's what they decided. And Rec and Park said, okay, you know, that's the way you want it, we'll schedule it that way.
Well, here's the thing, though. You can't force people to move up and play at the top level like that because,
that's what Jeff Porter
what
said.
happens is, I mean, literally, we have people who will call the county executive's office and call downtown if they feel that, you know, they're being wronged or something. So and then they, of course, just send it back to us and say, hey, look, this is your department. You deal with it.
Right.
But that's what happens. I mean, you get some people who just get completely out of control. But like I'm saying, that 11U South River team at the B level that gave up no points the whole season, you couldn't tell me that they couldn't have won 3 or 4 games in the American.
Absolutely. Well, and obviously the Brooklyn Park and Old Mill 80-pound teams could easily be in the American. I don't think they're the ones that didn't want to play up.
Right,
but you need 6
gotta have
teams.
6, yeah.
And it's hard.
Nobody wants to lose a game, Bill. That's what it comes down to.
That's what it comes down to. And it really is the wrong attitude. This is supposed to be about learning and kids having fun. How about that? There's a novel idea. Let's let kids have fun. But, yeah, nobody wants to lose. And that's what I talked to Larry Brown, the commissioner of Old Mill, and he said, look, we want these teams to play up, and we'll go to a meeting and say that we got to have, everybody has to have a team play up. Then they go back to their organization. They say, no, we're not doing that. So it's a very difficult situation, and I don't know what the answer is.
Let's get to Bill's interviews with Rick Anthony and Jason Clarke.
We're on location here at the Anne Arundel Youth Football Association Championship Day. Mark, our outstanding cameraman, has been getting some footage of our first game, which is the 70-pound final. I am here with Rick Anthony, our outstanding director of Anne Arundel County Recreation and Parks Department. Rick, just talk about what a great day this is. Here we are in the morning, and the stands are packed already. They're going to be coming all day until this day is over. This is a real testament to what we do in Anne Arundel County as far as recreation and parks, don't you believe?
Yeah, that's right. And you hear a lot of some of the negative things through the year, but when you come out here and see a day like today, beautiful weather and the fans behaving rightly and the kids are just having a great time out there, this is the payoff. And this actually happens more than you realize week to week here for the amount of games that we put on and just the minimum issues that we have. We think we've been very successful over the years. One of the best programs, in my opinion, in the state.
Now, there's a unique relationship here. Anne Arundel County Recreation and Parks provides the template and much of the organizational backbone, but the Anne Arundel Youth Football Association, AAYFA, really in many ways governs themselves. Can you talk about the relationship and how it works? And, I think it's kind of what they call a public-private partnership in many ways, isn't it not?
Exactly right, and we have been very fortunate to have great leadership here in the county, gentlemen that are very passionate about the game, and they understand the mission of our department, because that's certainly important. We want to make sure that they understand that what our priorities and what our values are, and they extend that out to the community. So last year, Reggie Leach did a great job. That was his last year. This year, Jason Clarke's come on board, and he just continued that whole overall excellent philosophy of making sure the kids are having fun. We're putting a competitive program out there, and that, again, they represent the values of the department.
Now, your staff, John Spinnenweber and others, and maybe you'll mention some other people that are involved directly with youth football, but they do the schedules, they do a lot of the organizational behind-the-scenes work. Do you want to highlight a little bit of your staff? Because I sometimes think parents only call Recreation and Parks when there's a problem, and people need to realize that you got people working 5 days a week, 8 hours a day to make sure that this happens.
Exactly right, and probably the single most person that deserves a little bit of credit is Jeff Porter.
Yeah, Jeff.
We actually brought him in. He was out with the adult softball about 4 or 5 years ago, had a little bit of issues with the leadership in football. We needed a strong personality there to kind of stand up to some of these coaches and commissioners that are very passionate, and he just had the perfect temperament. He came over, he's been running football ever since, and I told him that we're not going to let him retire until we find his replacement. But he over 200-something teams, I think, every year. Just the problems with the schedules, the coaches, the weights, all those things are issues that he has to work out during the course of the year. So it is very complex and challenging every football season. I think he just wants to go to Bahamas as soon as the season is over, but he's done a great job.
Well, not to get too deep, but you're a parent and had children that played at athletics, and obviously football is under assault in some ways because of the concussion issue, and it is a real issue, but at the same time, kids are having fun out here, so there's a balance that we have to strike. Any thoughts from the leadership of Recreation and Parks about where this is going? I know we've talked about flag football leagues, maybe for the younger kids. Yeah. What are some of your thoughts, Rick? Because it is a great sport, and we want to support it, but we want to do it right, and the Head First and some of the other initiatives are helping with that.
And you're right. I started in Anne Arundel County as a 70-pound football coach just really? Out here. I became commissioner at Edgewater Blue Devils and obviously transitioned to this department. But the sport is still a sport that is important. The kids are enjoying it. And I do believe with the education as we have evolved and making sure that there's less contact at practice, that the coaches understand the tackling fundamentals. So as the sport evolves, I think we're very interested in making sure that our product, what we put out there, is keeping up with the trends and making sure the kids are safe. We promote alternative. If there's the flag football leagues that are growing, we certainly support that.
Right. Does Rec and Parks support flag football?
We do. It's almost like another private partnership that we have with some other leagues that are coming in and doing a lot of flag. And we've seen that league grow. Okay. And so we will continue to offer, whatever the citizens really want. If the parents have some concerns about safety, then we want to put an alternative product out there that they're proud of. But again, as you can see, we still are very proud of what we've been able to accomplish here with tackle football also.
Well, in my job at the Capitol as a sports writer, I deal with Rick Anthony a lot. He is a great director of Recreation Parks, done a fantastic job. Rick, thank you for your efforts, and this day is really a testament to what happens between Rec and Parks and AAYFA. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you very much.
We're here with Jason Clarke, the president of the Anne Arundel Youth Football Association. Jason, it's been a long season.
Yes, it has.
We start in late July.
Yes.
We are now in November,
Correct.
But this is it. This is the culmination.
Correct.
How does the season go on? Has it been a successful year for AAYFA?
I think we've had a great season from top to bottom, age 6 all the way up to 14U. The participations are down a little bit, as everyone knows, but when we come up here, this is what it's all about. We get everybody to come out, support the kids, and what the main thing is that, this is an opportunity, and we try to make the best of it for them.
Now, Reggie Leach was the president for many years, did a great job. Now, Jason has been a commissioner in this organization. He really kind of learned from the ground up. First of all, remind me of your background. We gave you the Touchdown Club, now Vanaplis Volunteer of the Year Award one time, the Vince DiPasquale.
Yes.
So I know you've done a great job, but you've been a commissioner. Just kind of tell me how this evolved that you're now the president.
Okay, I first got my coaching start with Millersville Wolverines, and I was just a coach, and then I got on the executive board when Ron Lyons was the president, and I served with him, and then Rick Peacock took over, and then after Rick, Reggie was, and so, I believe even if you go back as far as Sam McCoy, all those guys I felt kind of did a real good job in bringing me along, kind of mentored me along the way. And so when it was my opportunity to finally get here to do this, more than happy to try it. We've changed a lot of things in 6 months since Reggie stepped down. But at the end of the day, we're hoping that on the back end, it pays off and helps make football premier in Anne Arundel County.
Right. Well, it is somewhat of a thankless job because I'm sure that 90% of the phone calls that Jason gets are negative. Somebody's unhappy about something. But really, the leadership of AAYFA is really important. There's a commissioner of every organization. There's an executive board. You had mentioned you've changed some things. What were some of the issues you wanted to address? What are some of the initiatives that you have launched that maybe are worth mentioning?
Okay, since taking over, we had a new board. We have Demetrius Ballard as the vice president.
Okay.
We have Steve Mitchell-Tree that's on the board. We have Rick Locklear from Crofton that's on board. Chris Sexton's on board.
Yeah,
and so
you're mentioning guys that have all received our Touchdown Club award. Mitchell-Tree, Sexton. I mean, these guys they're good volunteers.
And we also have this year, we have the first lady, Whitney Magnum from Queen Anne's.
I love it.
So what we decided to do was kind of like open up, create transparency. So to allow the people to see really what goes on as far as running the association. We've got a podcast that we do weekly during the season. We also, and this is the first time since I've been involved, which is 19 years, that we're streaming the games live on our YouTube page. So those are the type of things that we're trying to do, and and it gives people an opportunity to really see what's going on within youth football. So that's step one, was to open up. And then we had a nice long conversation with John Spinweber and Mark and Jeff Porter, and even including the director, to try to open the doors to get word out to the parents so they continue to support the AAYFA. So that's step one, and so far it seems to be working well.
Right. Well, I was taken aback a little bit, and for those who don't know, the Anne Arundel Youth Football Association is divided into categories, and obviously it's based on competitive level. The highest level, the American division, is usually when we talk about AAYFA Championship Day, we're usually talking about the Americans Championship Day. There's 7 weight classes. This is the first year in my memory, Jason, of covering this event, that there's some weight classes that do not have a final. I believe that 80 does not have a final, 11U, 12U. Why is that, and is that something that you feel needs to be addressed? Because obviously we would like to have a championship game at every level of the highest level of AAYFA.
Correct. As a board, as an association, we kind of determined that we don't have the numbers to support a 3-tier system, American, National, and a Central. And Central being basically your second team. So what's happening through the years? Some of the teams have become dominant, and some people don't want to play in those particular leagues, so they move down. And so what happens is we don't get, I think the county wants us to have 6 teams to make it American. If you don't get 6 teams to register there, then we have to move down to national. And so what happened in those 80s and 11U and I think 12U is that you had 2 teams, we had to split the nationals. And so they're not playing today, but they'll be playing. Actually, we had some play last night at Annapolis High School, and we'll be here again tomorrow with those other teams. That's a major problem that we have to address, and we're going to try to work hard with the department to try to get that. We need a viable second league, which is our Central Division, but we also want to thrive in the American Division. And maybe a name change, something, but we don't have the numbers anymore.
Do you think we might just go to 2 divisions instead of having the 3? It's American National Central. Maybe just have a 1 and 2, and you make your pick. But I mean, obviously, you want to feel as though that there's teams at the highest level in every weight class.
Right, yeah, you're absolutely right, and that's one of the things that we're going to be working. As soon as this is over, that's where we start. We asked for the commissioner to start giving us proposals at the end of in October to address this problem, because again, it's a major issue where we have everyone playing in one division because they don't want to play whatever reason. So that's like priority 0 to get us a viable league, and this format with the streaming and actually talking to commissioners and the actual people, they're getting understanding it now, and so hopefully we'll be alive and thriving next year.
So last but not least, obviously everyone talks about concussions, and you talked about participation being down a little bit. That's because some parents are worried about that. But AAYFA is at the forefront of addressing this issue, and it starts with education. And I know that the Touchdown Club of Annapolis supports many clinics that you all are doing. Talk about some of the initiatives you're doing to train coaches, teach players the proper way to tackle so that concussion isn't such an issue.
Okay, I have to give credit to Reggie Leach. He had a good vision ahead of this, so he partnered AAYFA with USA Football, and we do our heads up certification,
Right.
And that's training for everybody. Anybody that coaches, it's a $10 that they have to take a training. They don't have to, but most organizations recommend it, and that teaches us everything as far as how to deal with that, prepare for it, what symptoms to look for. I mean, I played for the Pasadena Chargers when I was a kid, and it's completely different how coaching is. And so as long as we stay on the forefront of that, I think we're okay. And, we have Crofton that has a higher trainer at everyone. So we're moving in the right direction. The county's policy of not allowing the contact policy, which is 2 contact practices a week. 3, which includes the game. So I believe we're a pioneer, and again, I have to give Reggie credit for that, for having the vision to see all these things through. So that's the way it's been working.
Well, Jason, thanks for your service, and people understand this is a volunteer job. All these people out here helping with AAYFA Championship, they're volunteers. They don't get paid. They do it out of the goodness of their heart for the kids. So thank you very much for your service. Appreciate it.
Thanks again.
And of course, the Capitol, as they do each and every year, doing a full breakdown, and that'll be in Friday's paper with a lot more pictures as well as they track down all the results and get a lot of the photo art that the photographer came out and took for Youth Championship Day. And what a great weekend, and kudos to my former classmate at Southern High, Brian Aiken, whose 90-pound national UQA team from over the bridge went undefeated this year and picked up a championship on Sunday over at Chesapeake as well. Now to the high schools, where let's start with the privates, because we had some end game there. And we had talked about all the tiebreakers for St. Mary's and Severn. It all turned out their way. They get to play again in the B Conference title game. And when you look at I don't know really what the word is to describe St. Mary's over the past couple of years, but I think upheaval might be a little bit strong.
I think it might be accurate. Right.
They've had multiple changes of leadership, let's call it that.
Right.
And give these kids a lot of credit, finally seizing the opportunity here and having a championship season, winning the B Conference 28-14 over their arch rivals at Severn.
All right, it's been a while for St. Mary's since they won a B Conference title. I think it was during the tenure of Brad Best years ago. You remember Monty Graves was on that team. So
ended up at Maryland.
This is a long time coming for the Saints, and you're correct. Jason Bedroni bringing some stability to the program, and that is what they needed. And upheaval is not too strong of a word. They ran a coach out of there because he apparently was promised scholarships to kids that he didn't have the authority to do. But they went through several coaches in a short period. Mike Clay, they didn't like Mike because he recruited too much. They thought so.
But that's where. And I know that's where the fine line in private schools comes in. But, look, Spalding's recruiting, Severn's
Everybody
recruiting.
recruits. So if you don't recruit, you're not going to be any good.
ACS is recruiting.
They didn't like who Mike Clay recruited, frankly. I mean, let's be honest. He brought in some kids from Baltimore City because he'd been up at
St. Francis.
Yeah. And so, the bottom line is they went through some coaches, and you got to get one guy, some stability. When Mike Whittles was at Spalding, they were at their very best because they had stability. Now Kyle Schmidt is the same. So, you got to have stability in your program. Then So congratulations to St. Mary's. They Donald Day, another big day running the ball.
It's been huge for them all year.
Yeah, St. Mary's rushed for over 2,000 yards, and so we got to give some kudos to their offensive line. My friend Jimmy Ellis, his son Luke Ellis, is one of them. But their offensive line, and that's I think what the coach Padroni said. We were able to run the ball and pound on people. Marcus Marshall was their backup. Both he and Donald Day had big seasons. So they, feel bad for Severn. Severn 8-0, and to finish the season with 3 straight losses, 2 of which are to your arch rival. That's really tough and kind of leaves a bad taste after what was a very special season. Dwayne Tyler, the coach, did a tremendous job in his first year. So I kind of feel bad for the Admirals with how their season ended.
Yeah, it was still a very successful season for a Severn team that, again, let's face it, usually Severn is a team, and again, tuition, if you want that great education at Severn, you got to pay for it. I mean, let's not, let's cut to the chase there. The numbers on that roster sometimes are usually challenged, but what we have talked about in the past, when some of the better lacrosse athletes go out and play football.
Jacob Perriton, Jacob Mandish,
Henry Wentz.
They're all lacrosse players, right?
And when those guys go out and contribute to the football team, that's when Severn's usually pretty good, and they had an awesome season this year. Our boy Sam Akumakami and the boys at AACS, Thaddeus Stanfield set the tone early with a 40-yard interception return, and AACS wins the C Conference Championship. And Bill, you got to feel at some point they're probably headed to the B Conference as well.
I think they should go up. I mean, I definitely believe that they could compete with the likes of St. Mary's, Severn, Boys Latin, St. Paul's. They're in that conversation, and they should want that. They should want to challenge themselves. They've won 2 C Conference championships in the span of 3 years. Mike Lynn doing a tremendous job. Again, we talked about stability. He took over for Kenny Lucas and has brought that stability. He mentioned that tough to play. They played St. John's Catholic Prep 3 times this year.
Well, there's just there's not that many teams in the
Bro,
city.
that's another reason why you go up. If I'm AACS, I want to go up and challenge myself. So we'll see what happens. A lot of times, MIAA will force you up. Now, I don't know.
Problem is, though, if you force them up, how many teams does that leave in the C, and is there the opportunity for C Conference football?
Well, and the question, a lot of times when they force one up, another one goes down.
Like a little relegation system.
Right. So
like soccer overseas.
A part of this will be, is there a team currently in the B that really is not competing and doesn't maybe has to go down? Because you do still need to field a representative C Conference.
Lottie-dottie, St. Vincent Pallotti, I think only won 1 game this year, so maybe they would have to move down for a season and trade places with
AA. Right, when that 1 game was Severn.
Yeah, no doubt. North Point beats Arundel 20-19, and when we thought about how this season was going to go, when you saw North Point throw that 42-0 blanking on Old Mill at the start of the season, you were like, whoa, Eagles have it this year. Give Chuck Markowitz's kids a lot of credit. They nearly had this thing Friday night down in Waldorf against North Point, and to just miss by a point, a tremendous testament to the job that these kids at Arundel did this year. I mean, they were right there, nearly upsetting an undefeated team.
Right, well, it's a shame because Arundel had the ball deep in North Point territory. If they score there, it's game over. And what happened is North Point got a big defensive stop and then turned around and threw a 76-yard pass was the difference. That ended up being the go-ahead score. And Arundel trailed 3-0 and did not trail again until that 76-yard pass put North Point ahead. So they, controlled the flow of the game. Down there at North Point on the road, that's a tremendous performance. I saw on Facebook that Chuck Markowitz mentioned that he got a nasty message from a disgruntled parent. I don't know who that parent is, but they're an idiot, he or she, because Chuck Markowitz is the best coach in it's probably the state of Maryland. If definitely in Arundel County, one of the best coaches in the state of Maryland. He's in the Hall of Fame. The man is retired, yet continues to coach at Arundel. Arundel should be absolutely thrilled that they have Chuck Markowitz. And he turned this team around. They lost 2 of their first 3 games. They're in a hole, and he led them to a great finish. They almost upset a team they probably shouldn't have beaten. They were definitely not favored. And whoever would complain about the job Chuck Markowitz did, it's beyond me.
Yeah, Ryan Sedgwick with a couple of touchdown passes. Darius Turner with 105 yards on the ground. Meanwhile, Chesapeake right there again with long reach, and they give up a couple of explosive plays. They lose by 3, 27-24. So second time in 3 years they get knocked out of the playoffs, but this time they're much closer in their playoff game. Really had a chance to win this game. But, when you
Russell
give up
Tongue with a couple big
when you give up
catches.
explosive plays, those are the things. When you make people drive the ball at the high school level, they'll make mistakes more often than not. give up explosive plays, teams don't have to worry about those 8, 9, 10 play drives, and that's what happened at Chesapeake here in this one as they fall by a score of 27-24 and finish the season now at 7-4. Meanwhile, then there's Broadneck. First time they played, Meade was leading 21-14, and you talked to Rob Harris before that, and Rob had said, hey, Meade's kind of team's got the athletes that can run with our receivers and things of that nature, and that's pretty much what we saw the first time around before Broadneck rallied 28-21. This time, there was no suspense.
Yeah, Broadneck left no doubt.
No suspense.
What a performance by the Bruins, and they really made a strong statement, and they got rid of the jinx that we've had of the top seed going down in the opening round. That had happened now, I think, 2 years in a row. Broadneck had done it, gone 10-0, lost. Old Mill went 10-0, lost. So they got rid of that jinx, and Shane Davis threw a couple touchdown passes. And a running game was there. I think
Jason Clarke now a 29-yard run. He's over 1,000 for the season. So you couple the running game, and this is why they're so good. They got balance. They can run, and Shane Davis can throw. They've got good receivers. So they've got the balance you're looking for offensively. 28 second quarter points blows this game wide open, and they win it by a score of 35-6. And now you got a big showdown coming up this week. Pair of unbeatens with North Point coming up to Arnold to take on Broadneck in what should be. Is that Arnold or technically Annapolis?
Well, no, actually Broadneck High is in Arnold, but half of the surrounding area is considered Annapolis, which is very strange.
Really wacky borders up here.
Yes. It's going to be a great game. I cannot wait to see what happens on Friday night. I would not bet against the Bruins, and they are now the last Anne Arundel County team standing, so everybody needs to get behind them. It'd be great to see Broadneck win a state championship. This has been a very good program for a long time. Jeff Herrick obviously built that program into what it is now. Rob Harris has continued the tradition. They have gotten into the state playoffs before. They've won region championship. I think they're going for their 8th region championship on Friday night. So they've been in this position before to win a state championship, just have not been able to get over the hump. So it'd be great to see the Bruins finally bring home that state title in football. They've won a state title in pretty much every other sport that you can name. So football is one of the last.
And perhaps a collision course with Wise
is
somewhere down the road.
Well, I think that would end up being in the semis. I think that'd be the final.
They're the top 2 point average, so that would have to be a final.
They'd be in the final, right.
By the way, congratulations while we're at it to Chesapeake, who won a second straight field hockey championship. Joan Johnson, who for years through Arthur Slade did a wonderful job coaching young women in the youth feeder program, now has won back-to-back championships for them in the Class 3A rank. So congratulations to Chesapeake.
And South River won a state championship in hockey while we're talking about it, too. So.
And
they backdoored their way in. That's another story.
It's definitely, but you know what? They told you to come. So if they tell you to come, you go win the game. So congratulations to the Seahawks on winning another championship down there in Edgewater. They seem to win a few of these things down there in Edgewater. Dave Klingle's got an incredible athletic department. Coming up, we'll take a look at the colleges. Navy with a performance for the ages, and Maryland, of course, running into Michigan. You know how that went. We'll also talk about the pros coming up as well, the Redskins and the Ravens. We'll do that in a moment on the Gridiron Review. In Annapolis, Malcolm Perry had been playing slot back all season. He took over at quarterback on Saturday for an injured Zach Abey, and all he did, Bill, was run for 282 yards and become the American Athletic Conference Player of the Week. And the Mids are bowl eligible, 43-40 in a thriller over SMU.
Well, they kept it a secret all week. I went out Monday and saw Malcolm taking snaps. And, we have an unspoken rule that I'm allowed to go to practice. I'm one of the few reporters in the entire country that gets to watch a Division I football program practice, and I learned quite a bit. But if I see something that is going to affect their game plan and could tip off the opponent, we don't report that. I think that's a nice gentleman's agreement. So a secret all week, and Malcolm was amazing. He was just tremendous. A 92-yard run, a 24-yard run. The ability to change direction at full speed, the jukes. I mean, the guy is just a fabulous runner. Really, really, explosive and lightning quick, and every kind of adjective you could use would work with Malcolm Perry. And it's interesting now where Navy goes with this. They've got Zach Abey rushed for 1,200 yards. He was very good. They've got Malcolm, but now both of them are hurt. Malcolm sprained his ankle. Abey sat out because of a bad shoulder. So who knows? Garrett Lewis might start against Notre Dame, but win is a win is a win. Defense collapsed in the second half, gave up 28 points, I believe. Is that what it was?
It's 34-11 at the half.
Right, and ended up being
29. They gave
40,
up 29
40.
points in the second half, yeah.
Right. Kenny should not have gone for 2. He should have kicked a field goal. They would not have been able to tie at that point. So that's why you always you don't go for 2 until you absolutely must.
Right, you don't chase the points.
Right, that's the adage that they should live by. So the defense, again, some issues, but bowl eligible, and that's 14 times in 15 years. That's consistency.
Not only that, it was a great mid-November crowd, too. 36,000 in Annapolis on Saturday. Great to have all that support. Anthony Gargiulo, by the way, reserve fullback, who had 145 yards in that game for the Mids as well. Maryland, meanwhile, ran into Michigan. And look, Michigan's offense has been a struggle this year, but their defense is still pretty good. Maryland found out about that, losing 35-10 to the Wolverines on Saturday.
Well, and you got the fifth-string quarterback, basically. I mean, Terrell Pigram went out in the opener. Then Kasim Hill went down. And Max Bordenschlager is now injured.
Yep.
And Caleb Henderson hadn't been right all year. Not sure.
And now you're down to a former Air Force
Ryan Brand.
walk-on,
Right.
Ryan Brand.
And, you know, you can only do so much with a fifth-string quarterback. And the confidence of your entire team is down. They have some playmakers, but they can't get them the ball. And they've had self-inflicted wounds. And this is what happens when you know either you're an underdog and it's going to be a tough day. You start doing desperate things. They try to fake punt deep in their own territory early. You don't do that. I mean, the game was not at that point yet. So some mistakes that they made, and Michigan, of course, capitalized. And, you know, Michigan probably could have named that score. I think DJ Durkin used to work for Jim Harbaugh, and I think he might have taken it easy on him a little bit.
Yeah, we'll see. Redskins, by the way, Ravens were off. Redskins played, and again, their problem was finishing drives. They kicked a couple field goals, while the Vikings were getting touchdowns. Last time I checked, 7 trumps 3.
Yep.
So the Vikings end up winning 38-30. Damaging loss for the Redskins, now 4-5, and they just got to get through so many teams to get back in the wild card hunt in the NFC. And the Vikings, one of the league's best stories at 7-2, and the Redskins play one of the other best stories in the league, the Saints, who've won 7 in a row next week, who are also 7-2. So right now the work cut out for the Redskins.
That interception by Kirk Cousins at the end of the first half was just a killer, because Minnesota had just scored, and then you give them the ball back deep in your own territory, and they score again. So 14-point swing at the end of the half really turned this game. Redskins had no problem scoring in the first half. Then their offense went silent in the second half. Defense was terrible in the first half, played much better in the second half, but they can't seem to get it together, these Redskins. And it's disappointing, because I expected a little more out of this team. I thought that they might be playoff caliber, and that, like you said, that's now a stretch.
No doubt, especially with the way the defense played on Sunday. That'll do it for this week. As always, we appreciate you checking in with us. We'll have a review of Broadneck and North Point coming up, as well as the colleges and the pros. Bill and I are headed to Notre Dame for Navy and Notre Dame coming up on Saturday. Until then, thanks for watching this edition of the Gridiron Review.